Huge news, Joe. Huge news. 6 million people in the US alone are diagnosed with Alzheimer's disease. And this disease indication has been absolutely one of the most difficult to tackle for researchers. I think that the approval of this drug from Aduhelm from Biogen is the first one in like 20 years, first new compound in 20 years or something that has been approved for the indication. I think, Joe, the failure rate in clinical trials for Alzheimer's disease drugs is sadly 99%.
Wow.
We just do not have, as a scientific community, a great enough grasp yet on the true cause of this devastating disease. And, people may not realize it, but it's the 6th leading killer of people annually in the United States. So, I mean, it's a very frustrating situation for people, families, and those who are concerned about, or have loved ones who have Alzheimer's disease, because there really just aren't any good treatment options. And I think that, Joe, kind of brings you to that question of the controversy associated with this approval, because it is this tug of war in a way between, there's not a lot of great options out there. And if you're out of options, maybe, just maybe, this drug will give you some benefit. Versus on the other side of that, the FDA just went out and approved a drug that in clinical trials really showed no clear benefit in improving symptoms.
Yeah, that's crazy to me. I guess if it doesn't have a negative effect, it might be worth a try for somebody who's in a desperate situation. I mean, what do you make of that, Todd? Well, you're the healthcare expert here.
Yeah, I mean, there's this empirical thing. It's kind of like, the empirical evidence, or the anecdotal evidence, associated with marijuana use as being this, medicine that can treat all your maladies type of thing. Yet when you take these drugs through clinical trials, it's kind of a toss. There's been very limited success. There's success in epilepsy for marijuana. But I mean, I guess my point is that you've got the potential maybe that some people may benefit from it anecdotally. The trial was a failure. I mean, there were 2 clinical pivotal trials. One of them completely was a bust. The other one showed some evidence towards improving symptoms, but didn't really meet the category necessary for demonstrating that as a slam dunk. So there, at one point, Biogen shares had cratered because everybody said, well, they're just going to shelve it. And this is what this drug does is it targets something in the brain called amyloid beta. And the theory was that you get these concentrations of amyloid beta on your neurons, and those bundles of amyloid beta inhibit the signaling of neurons. And that's part of the reason that you have such a difficulty with cognition in Alzheimer's disease. That's the theory. The dustbins for the last decade have been littered with failed amyloid beta targeting drugs. Lilly has one. They're still trying to figure out. Johnson & Johnson. All companies have tried this modality, and it just hasn't panned out. What Biogen did, though, is they went back and took a look at their data and said, what if we take a look at this and try to spin it to the FDA differently? Spin's a wrong word, but try to present it to the FDA in a different way. And the way that they approached it was, give us emergency use or conditional approval, contingent upon us doing a study later on that can, we can prove that it does improve symptoms, and approve us based upon our ability to reduce those plaque buildups of amyloid beta. So rather than looking at the symptoms and how we handle the symptoms, instead approve us on the fact that, yes, we are reducing those amyloid beta buildups on the neurons. And that was the approval. That's why the FDA did it. But I mean, Joe, the advisory committee tasked with making a recommendation. So these are all doctors, specialists in Alzheimer's, right? Tasked with making a recommendation to the FDA on whether to approve it, recommended against it last fall. So the FDA went against their advisory committee recommendation in approving this. And the only thing I can think of as the reason to this, and this happened with Duchenne's muscular dystrophy as well, DMD, with a Sarepta drug, Exondys 51, I think, was that the massive need for just some other treatment option, and maybe it'll work and maybe it won't, but at least there's some sort of an option on the market that people can do. But this is, the stakes here, Joe, are huge. It's billions. I think they priced the drug at $56,000 per year.
Yeah. Oh boy, here we go again with one of these.
6 million patients, 56,000 a year works out to something like $390 billion. Now, obviously people aren't going to pay 56 grand, right? Insurers and Medicare, Medicare can't negotiate. That's a whole nother ball of wax, but insurers are going to negotiate price discounts. Maybe they get the drug for half of that when all's said and done. And of course, not every patient's going to take it. So maybe even if you get 10% of patients paying half the 56, so say like 28,000, you're still talking about a multi-billion-dollar a year revenue drug for Biogen.
Oh yeah.
So this approval is huge for Biogen, and that's why its shares went to the moon.
Yeah. So, how did Biogen's shares react? Do you want to pull up a chart?
Yeah, let's do you have your or do you want?
Yeah, I can pull it up on Active Trader Pro here.
While he's doing that, listeners, just as a reminder, we do post these to YouTube.
Symbol BIIB, is that right?
Yep, BIIB. We do post these to YouTube, so you can see the charts alongside of it. We'll do our best to try and help you understand what we're seeing if you're just listening on Spotify, Apple, or one of the other fantastic podcast platforms. A big shout out to those of you who have already subscribed to the channel and who tune in week after week to listen to us ramble on about stocks. Thank you. Thank you so much for being a part of this journey with us. If you have not subscribed yet, please take a second right now and just click the subscribe button on YouTube and ring the bell so you'll be notified whenever we post a show. So Biogen, back to the chart.
Biogen, this is one heck of a chart.
You think? So listeners, what we're looking at here is a stock that went from, Joe, what is that? 290 the day before, roughly?
Yeah, about 290, 285, 290.
And the day of the approval got to as high as?
Peaked at, where are we? 468. Woo!
And really has not given back much of those gains over the last 4 trading days. I mean, it's been bouncing around and it's down today, but I mean, we're still talking significantly higher. Where is it right now, Joe?
400, 401.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, right up here, listeners, or viewers, excuse me, listeners have no idea what I'm talking about. But
right here.
Yes, viewers, right up here in the top left is the ticker. So just to fill you all in, this is, I'll be sharing my screen a little bit more often than I used to. Active Trader Pro is notorious for not working well at all on Macs, and so now that I have it here on my PC, I thought that it would be helpful to see a tool that a lot of you can use, because I'm sure many of you have Fidelity accounts. And so also, side note, one of the things I'm going to do next week is I'm going to publish a little tutorial on how you can get these moving averages onto your default chart. So we have you're seeing the 21 day here in red, the blue is the 50 day, and the green is the 200 day. So those are the exact ones that Todd uses on his MarketSmith charts.
Right, and we're not compensated by Fidelity or MarketSmith. These just happen to be the platforms that we happen to use.
Yes, they happen to be very useful tools.
Yeah, absolutely. So again, Joe, just going back to this, I mean, this just goes to show you just how binary events in biotech can move stocks, right? I mean, the company has made all of its money on multiple sclerosis drugs. It basically got rid of its other drugs, sold them off, split them out, and focused on CNS diseases, so central nervous system diseases, including Alzheimer's. So this was like a moonshot deal for them, but it's huge to their optionality of the business growing and expanding into this other indication. So nobody believed that this would get approval based upon A, the trial data, and B, the fact the advisory committee recommended against it, and yet they approved it. So when you have that kind of a situation playing out, when the odds are against it, and then it ends up happening, it's understandable why the stock jumped as much as it did.